All right, so I'll just do the call to order. I'll call the meeting of the Wellington Board of Education Curriculum Committee, June 1st, 2021 at 3:02 p.m. to order. Thanks all for joining today. The agenda is we're going to review the social emotional learning curriculum that the district staff has worked on for purchase. We're going to review the Director of Curriculum Instruction job description, and that's all we have today. So let's start with the SEL portion. And Curriculum Committee, thanks. You've been quite busy this spring. So thanks for your, Laura, Ann, and Tracy, for your time. We appreciate it. So Marcia, I'll pass it off to you if you want to jump right in.
All right, great. Well, we are so happy to be here today. We have spent quite a bit of time looking at different SEL and talking about how we can best support our students through social emotional learning. So this is coming to fruition right now, and we're happy to see that. Brandon and Erica, I'd like to thank you for being here today. Erica was a huge part in this committee, helping to facilitate and conducting a survey, and Brandon spent some time piloting some lessons, so we'll hear a little bit from him today. But I just kind of first want to start off by making sure we all have a good understanding of what social emotional learning is. So I'll do a brief explanation. We have a very clipped video to show, and then talk about what our process was for looking at different SEL curriculum and identifying the needs of our students and our staff, and then talking about what our recommendation is and next steps. So social emotional learning is, there's really kind of a umbrella agency called CASEL, who is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And they are really a big driving force on social emotional learning. They define SEL as social and emotional learning as the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So I'd like to take a moment because I think this video is really good at providing a really good overview on social emotional learning. So Phil, if it's okay, do you have the clip, or do you want me to become the host to share that?
I allowed you to share already.
Okay,
you should be able to do it.
All right, let me see if I can do this. Whoop, I don't want to start the video yet. All right, should be able to share. Here we go. All right, can everybody see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
That's Marcia, we don't have the audio portion of it.
Social and emotional skills.
You can't hear it?
Just starting.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Just as important as learning reading or math. This learning process is most effective when
Yeah, that's coming in and out. Something's not right with that.
and behaviors have.
You want me to keep playing it, or?
Is it breaking up on anybody else's, or is it just
It
me?
is. It is.
Yeah.
Each time you said something, I was just about to.
All right. Well, it is pretty
Rewind
big.
it and rewind it, Marcia, and just started. Just click back a little bit, and press play again just to see if it was loading.
Okay.
Go ahead, try it again.
With SEL, students manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, in healthy relationships. Students learn to recognize what's happening inside them and to be aware of their emotions, which helps them deal with strong emotions and impulsive behaviors. It helps them stop and think about a situation before acting. Students identify others' emotions and perspectives, which helps them empathize and show compassion, no matter who they are or what their background is. It's not difficult to imagine how this is important in the classroom and in life. Students learn to solve problems in peaceful ways and communicate assertively about what they need or want. This helps them get along with other students and get the help they need from adults. When students learn to make responsible decisions, makes a difference. Students who participate in SEL do better academically, have improved attitudes and behaviors, and act in delinquent or disruptive ways less often.
You're broken up again.
And nearly 50% more likely to graduate from high school and have a full-time job at age 25. Just as important, students who are socially
Yeah, you're broken up again, Marcia.
Okay.
That's all right. I think you get the sense of what we're looking at.
Yeah. Let me stop sharing this. Okay. Okay. So, well, that's too bad. It's a cute little, it's a nice little visual video. But what it's really saying is that we know that, we need to teach students social and emotional competences. There's a lot of research that shows students who have been taught these competencies have been more successful in all their areas of life. We know that SEL competencies should be taught with effective scaffolding teaching methods. Students should be provided opportunities to practice these SEL competencies in school, and the school culture should support full engagement of a common language and research-based practices, which also integrate family and community members in the process. So we really spent some time diving into this year in particular. However, I can't forget to talk about prior to COVID. Previous to COVID, we did spend time as a district looking at SEL. We had a committee that was formed. It started even before I came into district, that met on a regular basis, probably about once a month, maybe a little bit less, that looked at our current social emotional ways that we were providing students with these competencies and to how to learn about them. We monitored it through this committee, but this committee kind of, for a while, really wanted to look for a curriculum that was research-based, that has scope and sequence, that really was providing instruction from pre-K through 8th grade. So after COVID came, we recognized that this needed to be a top priority of ours, and we really kind of kicked it into full gear. So we developed an expanded SEL committee, and we began meeting on a weekly basis to review our current practices. We participated in social emotional development. We received feedback from our staff to identify core social emotional skills and researched emotional curriculum to best meet the needs of our school community. So as a committee, we met on a weekly basis, and we ended up identifying 3 different curricula that we felt could potentially meet the needs of our students. And we really took a dive right into those curricula. We met with representatives from each program, and we learned more about each program. So after that in-depth study, the committee unanimously determined that the second step curriculum met all the SEL needs that we were looking for many different reasons. It met the CASEL standards. It connected to the portrait of a graduate, the work that we've been doing. It provided professional development. It offers a scope and sequence that meets students' needs that were identified on our staff survey, which Erica had done along with the committee. It offers best practice multi-sensory instructional approaches that were relatable and user-friendly. The curriculum was also user-friendly to our staff and can be expanded upon, and it offered opportunities for family engagement, offered a principal toolkit. Brandon had the opportunity to use some of this curriculum within his classroom. I should back up for a minute because the committee all had access to the curriculum, so we were able to really look at the scope and sequence, the lessons, and dive into it. But Brandon kind of took that extra step and provided some of those lessons to his students. So Brandon, could you offer some feedback on what you saw with the second step curriculum?
Absolutely. So when we looked at the second step, I had access to the second grade curriculum, and I was just glancing through some of the items, and one of the units was on empathy and kindness. And you saw in the video, I'm not sure if the audio was working for that time, but that is a huge need that I've seen in all of my years teaching. The idea, you know, we talk all the time about being kind, but the idea of taking it to that next step and having empathy and using empathy and even knowing what that word means. Because even as an adult, I'm not sure if before we did second step, I could have really accurately defined what empathy was. So we went through 4 or 5 of those lessons, and we talked about what empathy was. And the second step defines it as kindness in action. I was calling it kindness 2.0. But the idea that we can recognize how someone is feeling, and then we can remember a time in our lives when we felt that way. And based on that, having that memory and that understanding, that informs the way we then treat that person and how we respond. And so we spent a lot of time. Second step had a lot of visuals. So there'd be a visual of, you know, 2 children on a jungle gym, and you can see that one of them is confident and one of them is nervous. And so just being able to talk about those things and how is this person feeling? How can you tell? Which is another skill that some students lack, being able to just read faces. But being able to do that, and then what could the confident person do when they realize that the person they're with doesn't feel that way? So when have we felt nervous in our life? And we did a lot of turn and talking and sharing about those things. And I, you know, wanted to really promote honesty, because this is not necessarily something that every child is strong in right away. The idea of being honest about, when did you feel nervous? When did you feel sad? When do you feel scared? Some kids are very hesitant to talk about those things. And then once we talked about that, okay, well, if you know what it's like to feel nervous, how might you help them? And I found the ideas that they came up with were even better. Second step, you know, gives you some suggestions and helps you come up with things. But I would say the kids in my classroom had better ideas and even stronger ways to respond and react to those sorts of situations. And from day 2 or day 3, empathy became a word that we talked with, was used all the time. So much so that today we had, you know, the Optimus Prime truck come in for a presentation for the 1st through 4th graders today. And the person who runs the thing said, well, you know, do you know what I'm here to talk about? We're here to talk about all sorts of things. And the first hand that shot up was one of my kids, and the first word out of their mouth was empathy. So that language really sunk in, and it became discussions that we had both as a whole class, and I could hear other kids talking about. And that right there was enough for me to be like, yes, this is it. This is perfect. This is what we've been hoping for years. So I found it really helpful and game-changing for us.
Thanks, Brandon. I just want to take a minute. I'm going to share my screen again, because we still have access to some of the preview curriculum, just so you can get a sense of what it looks like and how engaging it is. So this is probably one of the lessons, Brandon, that you were talking about. Oh, I need to move. Let's see, move everybody over here. So it comes with the teacher, they are digital lessons, so the teacher can access the lessons and preview them ahead of time. It has information on how the lesson should be taught, and then it also has the version for the students. So this would be what the teacher is accessing with the students. It starts off with a brain builder to engage the students. I won't show the whole thing, especially if it's breaking up, but just so you get a sense of what it's like.
That's tough, Marcia.
It's breaking up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't stay on the videos then, but and then you go through, you start the lesson. So it's visually engaging, and I won't teach the lesson now, but this is what the students would see as the teacher is instructing. There's some of the pictures that Brandon was referring to, and it does have videos throughout. So you do the lesson, and then there is, write or draw 3 things you could do to build a friendship. So it's kind of multi-sensory, and then it does have a check at the end, where they're checking for understanding at the end. So just a really quick little overview, or so you can kind of see what it looks like. But second step is a pre-K through 12th grade curriculum. So we are looking at the pre-K through 8th grade curriculum. It is based on the CASEL standards, as I was talking about before, which is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So that's just a kind of a quick overview of the curriculum. Our next steps would be to strengthen our adult SEL capacities through professional development and resources. We'd like to provide family strengths, strategies and support to bolster each student's social emotional learning. So that's what I was talking about through the principal toolkit. And the third step would be to continue to monitor student growth and provide ongoing identification of students who require additional social emotional instruction and intervention, since this is a tier 1 intervention for all students in district. So it's kind of an overview of where we are, how we got there and where we are, but we are recommending the second step curriculum, as we feel that this is the best curriculum to meet the needs for our students in district. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
I have a couple. I guess starting the first one, I'm curious when this would be implemented during the day, and how it would look. What you showed us is kind of elementary. How would this look in middle school? So those kind of my 2 questions.
Yes, definitely. That's a good point. And I should have pointed out that lesson that I showed you was for 3rd grade. So it is, it does change and it makes sure that it meets the developmental stages for each student. So as students grow and up until middle school, it's not so elementary. I can access the middle school curriculum. And Erica, I'm not sure if you had a chance to really dive into any of those lessons, but they are developmentally appropriate as they continue to grow. And then your other question was when would
chime in. Hold on, Marcia.
Go ahead, Erica.
I did look at the middle school curriculum a little bit, and I just wanted to point out that what is also nice about the program is that it has very similar standards across K to 8. So beginning of the year, everyone is starting with a mindset, whether it's kindergarten or 8th grade, which really connects to our curriculum that we're already building in that math and language arts. So that was a nice tie-in. So it kind of builds into other curriculums as well. The middle school model looks a little different. There is no fun little video to start, so a little more age appropriate. There are handouts for the middle schoolers, so it kind of does more internal reflection. So they have to kind of think about themselves and how they connect. It has some more dialogue with the middle school model, which is nice, but it does very similar to the elementary. It walks the teachers through every single part of it. And if you need more materials, there's more to pull in. So as a teacher, that is a really nice feature that it's all laid out, but there's extra if needed. I can share my screen if you want to see. I have it, I pulled it up.
Oh, I'm up. I have one of them up, so I could, let's see. You should be able to go ahead and share that. Let's see. Okay. I won't play the video since they're not coming in. But here's one of the lessons. that ends the wrap up. But you can see just the graphics of it is more developmentally appropriate. That is something that we really took a look at, because that was one of the big questions is, you know, how do we engage the middle school students? Is it appropriate for middle school students? So that's something that we really kind of made sure was appropriate and, you know, dove into when we were looking at that. Sharing. Okay. So, and when this would be implemented, so the middle school, we do have advisory period, which it can be implemented into the advisory period, which is a weekly time frame. In the elementary school, we have that morning meeting time, so it could be implemented into the morning meeting. So we have already a framework in both buildings where it could be implemented and seamlessly, really, at this point.
Or I think the other piece too that the committee spent some time on was really connected to outside of the classroom. So if you're not a general ed teacher or you have your own specific classroom, this can work for a social worker. This can work for a special education teacher, a Spanish teacher, and that the language goes across and there's additional lessons. So it'll take some communication so they know where, you know, where the students are in the scope and sequence, and they know what their skills they're working on. And that's why we thought it was really critical to have a program that was pre-K through 8th, and not changing programs from elementary to middle. And that's one of the reasons too why the committee landed on second step. You're muted, Ann.
That's probably why the professional development is so important. So the people that are not in the classroom are also familiar with the program and the skills within it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in this program, correct me if I'm wrong, Marcia, some of the programs have a train the trainer model, and that's fine, but if someone leaves, you're stuck. And this is a lot of the PD for this program on second step. They're short videos, and so you can go in at any time, you can rewatch them. Someone new is hired, they can go in and they can watch the videos, and you're going to get the same message. You know, Brendan Tormey is going to get the same message as somebody else that's hired new on his grade level, and they can have a conversation. Whereas, you know, one trainer, when Brendan was hired, told him this, and then the new person comes in and they got to figure something else out, or it just makes it harder. So this provides consistency from year to year, and this is a significant commitment, because this is not a do it for 1 year and step away. This is a process.
We talked about how the principal toolkit is an important piece with that too, because they really are ultimately kind of the facilitators to making sure that everybody is on the same scope and sequence, you know, from related services staff to families also. So the principal toolkit, I think, is a really important piece to this, to tie it all together.
So I'm wondering, do you have any sense of faculty buy-in to implementing this type of program?
Yes, we do. That was also a big discussion of the committee. We have a large faculty buy-in. We have, you know, faculty who are really looking for a curriculum, common language, scope and sequence. Think they've been kind of wanting this for a little while. And now even more so, where we're seeing that, you know, COVID, you know, has affected students. They're really looking for something that they can use and is user friendly and engaging for students. So I feel that we have a really strong faculty buy-in from both buildings. We made sure that our committee was you know, constructed of staff from both buildings, from many different grades, from many different disciplines. We had classroom teachers, interventionists, our school counselor, our social worker. We had a speech and language pathologist, and all of our administrators on the committee. So it was a rather large committee because we wanted to make sure we had the buy-in. So I think we're in a very good place to start a curriculum like this, and hopefully for next year.
Yeah, and this was unanimous. This wasn't, a couple people on the committee like this program. This was unanimous through the committee. And I'll take a whack at my knees here. This group probably wanted to buy a program in September of 2020. And I said, you need to go through a process. You need to make sure that you find a program that's going to last, that you have buy-in, because we could buy any program, but if people don't buy into it, it's not going to work. And I think they, appreciate the work the committee did, the staff does. They appreciate the time they spent on it. And we had Marcia, if you want to talk about the open invite that we had, where anybody can come in and.
Yeah, we opened it up to all staff to come and join. We had a professional development just to kind of kick us off, to talk about what is SEL. And it was very well received, and even staff who maybe couldn't make one meeting, they made sure that they followed up with other people. So we had a really good turnout and interest of staff who wanted to be part of this.
That is very good to hear. I feel that this is so important, and my experiences in many different schools, from South Carolina up into Connecticut with advisory periods, trying to implement. I found so many other teachers not buying in, and it's just, and also no accountability. So like teachers not, having an advisory period and not really doing anything but hanging out with kids, which in some sense can be a good thing, if they're having good lessons. But I'm glad to hear there's buy-in. I am wondering if you've thought about like the accountability piece going forward to make sure that this is actually happening in the classrooms.
Yeah, Phil, you might want to answer this too, but one thing this year, and I have a feeling this will continue, it is our goal, our teachers' goal this year. Their goal, their learning outcomes for this year was SEL. So it is something that was in all of their teacher evaluation goals, something that we've talked about on a regular basis with them, we've monitored. And with the start of a curriculum like this, I definitely see, and it's a Board of Ed goal too, I see that continuing. Phil, I don't know if there's something that you want to add to that.
Yeah, the only other piece, and this is, we trust our staff, but there is a piece that falls into this program where once someone teaches the lesson, you can see it in the background. An admin can see what's been taught, what lessons have been, accessed online. It's a secondary check, I'll call it, because we trust our staff. We know they want to do it, but they've been asking for this. We want the consistency. We want a program. We don't want to have to reinvent and pull and find resources that we have to then vet. It's already done for them. And so, good, Laura, I feel like you were given a list of questions to ask.
I've been down this road as a teacher and seen how good it can be when it's implemented well. Like, and for me, advisory. I'm lived most of my life in middle school, although I did fourth grade for a little bit. But so I just, I want something that's going to work,
Right.
and if this is the curriculum you guys like, that's great. But to me, the implementation is just as important. You have to get a good curriculum, but then it's got to be implemented.
And that's where your approval process at the board level.
Right.
And I've said to the committee all along, you can recommend, the board approves. So the board would have to approve this curriculum. And once that's done, then the administrators have a very specific job to follow through on. They are then making sure that's happening in their schools and the way it's intended to happen. And we'll roll out, the PD for the staff. We'll make sure they know what our expectations are, the number of lessons that need to be taught. You know, there's a minimum that second step has. If they go beyond that, that's fine, but we're going to have that minimum and be able to follow through on those things. And you know, it just from pre-K through 8th grade to have the same language is just super critical, and it sends a message to students. It sends a message to our staff that this is important to us. Go ahead, Ann.
Marcia, you mentioned intervention. Would that just be like a behavioral thing that the teacher sees the children are not demonstrating, or how would that come to pass?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's different levels just in academic. We have the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, you know, so this second step curriculum is your tier 1. And that will be progress monitored. We'll be, you know, looking at many different things, you know, we'll be looking at attendance, we'll be looking at discipline, we'll be looking at, you know, just how many students are needing counseling services. So, you know, kind of that's the tier 1. Tier 2, we look at all of that in our student assistance team meetings, you know, to review students who are needing more than that tier 1 service. And then appropriate recommendations would be made after that, whether they are referred to one of our school-based counselors. You know, next year we'll have the school-based health center mental health. You know, is it an appropriate referral to something like that? So, you know, we look at the tier 2, tier 3, it may be a behavior plan, incentive plan. So there's many different ways that we would provide that support. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, and I didn't mean to click that. Tracy, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm impressed with the work the committee, the process that they went through to figure out, you know, find the right program. And I'm familiar with the program. I've used it in in different districts, and I think it's different than the program I used was a little different because it wasn't digital, but it's very good at being, you know, can't think of the word right now, but like, as you said, across the grades, everybody's working on the same things, but on an elevated level. Each grade you go up, and the same language can be used with, you know, across the district, and it can be used during, I don't know, you know, assemblies and things like that, where everybody understands they're on the same page. And so I think it's a good program.
Right. And that assembly point is really big, because if you're in 1st grade or you're in 4th grade, you have your own tie-in connected to the same concept. And we did look at, this program does have what I'll call a paper version, a kit. And my concern is loss of materials. You know, if there's any updates, you don't get it. When you do the online digital subscription, everything's there. You can print things out, you can access it. When they update items, you have access to them. It's a you know, easier way to store things. It's for me, I think it's the better way to go, and I think that was what the committee thought as well.
Oh, I think so too. It was many years ago that I was using this program, so.
All right, so any other questions? We're basically looking for your support, obviously, you know, at the board meeting. This is grant. It's in the grant already, so it'd be paid for fully by the grant. And you know, it would basically go through for the entire district. So, and I can give you more information about price and stuff at the board meeting. I don't have that with me right now, but the fact that it's covered by the grant as for multi-year subscription is important.
I think it sounds great. I think it sounds like a great plan.
I do too.
All right.
Got all 3.
Perfect. All right, well, let's move on to the second item on the agenda, which is the Director of Curriculum Instruction job description. Speaking of grants, and anybody that wants to stay is welcome to stay. Anybody that wants to leave, feel free to leave. I'm going to share my screen here. And this was this was written, I think everybody ran away. This was written basically as a draft pulled from numerous job descriptions that we looked at, and then for our own purpose. And so the reason I wanted this group to look at it is because this is the group that we initially came through to say, we're looking for using grant funds to get curriculum work written and approved and I'm going to say done, even though we know it's never done. And so what I did was, I think I shared this with all of you. And what I guess I want to make sure is that we're looking for some feedback. If there's things that you think are missing, or things that you think are overrepresented or underrepresented, I think that that's the type of feedback we're looking for. I'll tell you that admin supports this, but you know, we wrote this through my office here, and there's a job description for principals, pupil services director, and it's a very similar layout, and it just basically says what they're doing. And this is where, you know, you would be the ones that you have to, as the curriculum committee, I think it's important you're the ones that really understand and are advocating for your process. This is how we're going to get it done. Did you have a chance to look at this at all?
I still don't have access. I guess I have a different email that can access the Google Docs,
Oh, you have to be logged into your Willington account.
but it's different from my Willington email address.
It should be the same as your Willington email
I
address.
tried that. It didn't work.
Oh, I'll catch you offline then so I can share it
Okay.
with you. Email me what email you would want me to use, Laura, and I'll just attach it to it.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the idea of this is to bring this to the board, I guess, what is it, next week, for approval. And that's really what the reason why this has to be approved is because it goes into policy. Even though this wasn't through policy, it's I think it's again, it's a little weird this year, but this is the group that knows what you would want in it, not the policy group, if you know what I mean. So I can again share it, but I mean, you get the sense here what we're looking for qualifications, that they're overseeing the you know, the development. You know, that we did put in a little bit of admin work, and Kristen Stevens is probably doing a jig right now because this is on here. This is the coordination of the you know, the assessment of SBAC, because currently she's doing it. So it's under admin, and this person would have this role. Obviously, some of that would be delegated. But again, the primary thing is, you know, anything to do with writing curriculum. And it's under, the majority of it is this work right here. The administration piece is tiny. Go ahead, Ann.
My only suggestion is involving staff in the curriculum writing. And just as you've said down with number 2 under budget, involves instructional staff in evaluating, selecting instructional materials. Would we want something up above in curriculum and instruction where this person would work with staff to write curriculum? I noticed there's things about meetings, and I'd love to see a lot of input by the staff in, you know, in the curriculum, and have a vehicle for that to occur.
I think, hi, Mary Kay. I think that's what all of that is. And if we need to be clear on that, because I'm just trying to figure out where I wrote it. Yeah, I think that's where we combined a bunch of these so we weren't repetitive. I
Yeah.
think the intent, Ann, was to put it in that one, but we could add a similar statement.
So here it's down, yeah, there.
And that's under budget. I think
Yeah.
Ann's point is, you know,
Input into the right curriculum writing process. Whereas the budget is kind of helping to decide what to order to support the curriculum. Even if you said something like in number 1, coordinates with staff or teachers or the review, development, revision.
I was thinking with administration and faculty, something like
Yeah.
that.
so I was just typing when you said that, Ann, I just wrote collaborates with district staff in the writing of curriculum.
Okay.
Um,
And you could even add it to number 1, coordinates with staff and administration, the review, development, and
Vision of all subject area programs. Yeah, I like that better added to 1. Just it kind of emphasizes you want input, but the reason we're hiring this person is to do the writing. So, right, you know, we're trying to take that off the teachers, but we want the teachers to be involved and be able to give input. And
by this person coordinating it, they're taking the teacher ideas and putting them on paper or virtual space.
well, they're guiding the process. I mean, Kristen's still going to do a bunch of writing because it's part, you know, she's going to be there, but some of this is also, you're just trying to get at the collaborative piece that you feel is not clear there. That's
Yes.
your point of it.
Yeah. Once again, it's buy-in. You know, if the teachers have a lot of input into writing the curriculum,
more
you
like
have more buy-in.
What if, I
Not
mean,
that
if
they
you,
have to spend hours and hours doing it, but just,
so are you just changing that word, collaborates with staff to coordinate, but they're not collaborating with staff to coordinate it. This person's responsible for all the coordination of all the curriculum.
right. The coordinate is the best word there, not collaborate. Yeah, but they, you could say coordinates with staff input, the review, development, or
Could we just move number 5 up closer to number 1? Put it as number 2?
I mean, I
Or
could just move that up, yeah. I just don't know if it
separate
meets.
things?
Yeah, does that meet what you're saying, Ann?
number 5 is, I may have an older version of it.
No,
printed
I
out.
just wrote it.
Oh, you just added it. Okay.
Yeah, I wrote collaborates with district staff in the writing, evaluation, and review of curriculum. And I could write it the same way as this. Collaborates with staff, district staff in the review, development, and revision of all subjects. I could write the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, whatever you feels better, but that collaboration is the key.
Kristen Stevens, does that meet what you're looking for as well? I mean, as far as a writer goes, of all subject area programs.
Yes.
Something like that, Ann?
Yeah, that's good. And number 5 was good too. Either way is fine.
I didn't like 5. I was just thinking out loud.
Okay.
But I think the point is this right here now aligns to number 2, right? Isn't that the point?
Yes. And that it's not a person who's going to sit in a room and write curriculum all day.
You're
This
gonna get the
person,
feedback. Right. They're going to go write, they're going to bring it, or they're going to get it from the writers
Mhm.
and bring it to groups and get the feedback and keep the process going. Clever.
Thank you, Phil. That's good.
Yep. Nope. Good point. Anything else? I'll clean up don't mind that's good feedback. And anything else that you think is important to this piece? And Laura, if you obviously, look it over and if, because the board has to approve this, so this will go out as our draft with the agenda, with the understanding that you've had a chance to look at it already. And then we'll have to determine, the board can weigh in on it further, and obviously any of you can as well. But we try to keep it simple, but specific, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Thoughts? You good?
And the rest of it looks good to me. I just review it again before the meeting to be sure, but
Yep. And, I'm really looking for this group to have the lens of, what we're trying to accomplish. Of all the board members, you probably know best of why we're here, because of the conversations we've had in this committee, and how we can get to where we want to go. And does this job description fit that vision? Kristen, I don't know if you unmuted and you were going to say something, or if you were just.
I unmuted and you asked a question and I said yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, well, I'll send this out with the agenda next week. Obviously, if you have any feedback before then, just let me know and I can make some adjustments. Again, we looked at numerous directive curriculum instruction job descriptions and kind of pared it down. I can't stand repetitiveness. I don't want to see the same thing written in 3 different locations. I think that or spots. I just think it's a waste of everybody's time. And so we tried to pare it down to really the specifics of what we were expecting this person to do in this process. So, all right, I'll stop sharing that. Anything else for the good of the order? No? All right, so Tracy, I don't see you at 4 o'clock. So I think you're heading to class now, and Ann and Laura, I will see you at 4 o'clock, I hope.
Yep.
And thanks all for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you,
all right,
Phil.
thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
all for,
We'll adjourn at 3:49. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
okay, thank
All right,
you.
thank you.